This is Safe Community Call number 2. We're really excited to have you here. We have some great updates from Theo on the Safe DAO side. Clem is joining us to speak a little bit about Safe Apps, and we'll also share a little bit of an update that we're just pushing live on Twitter right now, so maybe a little bit of alpha. And then finally, Jonah from Den will be talking us through all the cool stuff that the Den team is up to on improving the functionality of Safe and some of their roadmap and what's coming up next for them. So just a little update on what Safe Community Calls are all about. We're here to kind of talk to you about everything that's happening around the Safe ecosystem. We are having these bi-weekly to start. We might change that over time, but if you have any questions on what you'd like to see featured, have questions or comments or anything like that, please let us know on Discord in the #community chat channel. So thanks for being here. I think over to you, Theo, for the Safe DAO update.
Thanks, Jorge. So hello, everybody. This is Theo. I'm working as DAO Coordination Lead with Safe DAO. So allow me to introduce you to the governance and what's happening there recently. So the most exciting things happening recently will surely be the Safe ecosystem proposals that are on Snapshot, and we recently passed SAP 1, that was the participation agreement. And currently there is SAP 2 on Snapshot available for vote for 3 more days. So if you haven't voted yet, please do so. And SAP 2 is about enabling transferability. So this is a topic that has been discussed for quite a while already, driven by lots of you in the community. And now is the time to decide on Snapshot whether the Safe token should be made transferable now or later, or not at all. So the vote about enabling the transferability now when the Snapshot proposal ends, or the alternative option is to not make any changes at this time and decide later, bring this up again later. So the vote is still ongoing, as I said. I believe it's currently about 67% for and 33% against enabling transferability now. And if it passes, the unpause method will be called under the contract, which means the token can be transferred, can be traded on decentralized exchanges and elsewhere. And yeah, so there are 3 more days to make up your mind, vote accordingly. And if we go to the next slide, this is a good opportunity to introduce a detail in our governance process, which concerns the automatic execution of proposals, which we're using the Zodiac reality module for. So if there's a proposal on Snapshot, there's an option to make use of this Zodiac reality module, also known as Reality ETH or SafeSnap, how it's now been called. And that is allowing us to define a transaction in a Snapshot proposal that will then happen and be executed trustlessly and automatically. It does require some input, specifically these 3 steps that you can see on the slide in the middle, but these transactions can be triggered by anyone. This is also called a escalation game with game theoretical logic behind it, which serve as an oracle. So on a higher level, that someone can ask a question which could say, does the Snapshot proposal say that we should enable transferability? ? That would be the initial question, the request execution part and the set outcome part. That outcome, that answer to the question can be challenged by anyone. There's also a stake that is being put up as part of the outcome. And that's the escalation game. So the assumption is any wrong answer will be challenged until it is correct. If there are no more challenges after a timeout period, no more other outcomes can be proposed. That's 5 days. And then there's another cooldown period where the final answer is being logged in, and that's another 3 days. So in total, we're talking about 8 days between the set outcome time event and the time when the execution can be triggered. That is the third manual transaction. So that is scheduled to take place as early as November 18 around 12 noon UTC. And that is the very earliest time. It of course depends when those manual transactions are triggered. But just so you know, that is where the community will get involved again as part of the escalation game. And the very earliest, if the proposal passes, the token would be transferable from November 18th around noon. But for more updates, just follow the snapshot proposal or the conversation on the forum. So that's it about SCP2. And if we go to the next slide, I would also just like to mention that there's the constitution proposal currently being discussed in the forum. That is still the pre-SCP phase, so there's still a lot of room for discussions. Please do review the proposal and make up your mind. The constitution is a very important part of SafeDAO governance. The proposal proposes to have this constitution, which is different from other SCPs. It cannot be changed as easily as other SCPs, which in this case is a feature, not a bug, as part of the proposal. As the name suggests, really provide a fundamental vision, a mission, and some principles we want to adhere to in this DAO, which should create some more unifying identity around SafeDAO and make our lives easier when we talk about the direction of future proposals. So this is, of course, a very important proposal. It's vital for us to get this right, because changes will be possible, but by definition harder to make. And that is in phase 0, so to speak, an informal discourse discussion, which is being followed by phase 1, minimum 6 days from discussion, and then later comes to a snapshot vote. So check it out now. Keen to hear feedback. And next slide, please, if you want to follow up with all these processes and future proposals, please. Oh, that's this slide after, I'm sorry. One more important note. Yeah, if you want to follow up with safe governance, that's exactly the slide. Follow our Twitter, enable notifications, and feel free to reach out anytime when you have a question to me or someone else in the forum. And if we go one slide back, that is a good slide to close on from my side, because please don't forget to claim your tokens. If you're not sure, better check twice whether you're eligible with any of your wallets. We're talking about the user airdrop, which you may have received tokens from using Safe, but also the ecosystem airdrop for guardians, of course. So make sure to check whether you've claimed, because December 27th is the deadline. And after that, your tokens will be donated back to the treasury. And that's a nice gift, but you really want to be sure whether you want to miss out on them. So December 27th is the deadline. Next up, I think, is Clem, or I'm handing back over to you, Jorge.
Yeah, I think that covers it. Thank you, Theo.
Yeah, thank you, Theo, for the update and the reminder as well. Always interesting to see the development in governance. So yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Clem, working as product manager for Safe Apps. Super happy to be here today. I'll be giving you sort of brief updates on what is there to come in the very short term for Safe Apps, either as future or also as kind of research plans we're currently having with the team. I hope that maybe I can bring some of these updates to you, more regularly, probably not on a bi-weekly basis, but super happy to share what the team is currently working on, investigating to try and make, the Safe Apps as an ecosystem, as a product also, stronger. So yeah, Jorge, please, if you can go. So in the making, these are literally deliverables that we have for the quite short term, I would say. We have heard from community feedback and after team discussions that it would be interesting and valuable for users to be able to access applications via a different frame size, and somewhat also customizable. So we're gonna be providing an interface very soon that will remove some of the visual elements that allow to provide a more immersive experience directly into the third-party apps that the Safe Apps is listing. That's going to be coming in the coming weeks. Then, and also another interesting part, a bit of work that we're currently doing is related to the abstraction of the communicator logic in the SDK. So as we further decentralize and we want to make our SDKs employed by more people and more developers across the community, we want to enable external teams to replicate the same logic that is available via the SDK for displaying external applications from within an interface. And so for that, we're working on creating a new package, a new library that should be able to be used by developers that want to maybe mimic the kind of logic of the Safe Apps SDK for their own purpose. Another interesting update from the product side is the integration with the Wallet Connect V2. That's something that's been, I think, quite popular and quite widespread integration and updates lately from the different applications out there, and it's also something that's in the making for us. There's also, of course, continuous improvements that are currently being made to the application, and aside from the deliveries that we have, we also have some research currently. Some research initiatives. So I'm looking, let's start with the one at the bottom, the user research one. I'm currently doing some user research about the Safe Apps SDK developer experience. And so I've been in touch with some developers from the community that have already integrated with the Safe Apps SDK, but I'm looking to talk to many of you. I recently joined the team, and I think it's very important for us to try and understand maybe what could be improved in the experience with the Safe Apps SDK, and to try and get like a very holistic view of the overall developer journey in integrating with Safe Apps. So if you have feedback or if you have recommendations on how we can try and improve, or even if you just want to share your positive experience, please do reach out to me. So I've attached here my email at the bottom left. You can see clem@safe.global, also available on Discord. I have a Calendly link. It's very easily, you can very easily book an appointment, a meeting with me and a colleague, and we would love to really hear what it was like for you to integrate with the SDK in order to make the product better. And then there's also another bit of research that we're currently doing that is related to the decentralization of the Safe Apps curation process or Safe Apps management. This is very early in very early stage, but we are in the as we launched the Safe DAO, and we are aiming for decentralization as a key strategic pillar. We're very interested in looking into the ways we could try and make the process of Safe Apps management, listing, and etc. Fully decentralized or gradually decentralized. And so we're in that process, looking into these things. It's very interesting, and we will update the community as soon as we start maybe getting some ideas, I guess, on the forum. So that's about it for the updates of Safe Apps.
Great. Thanks, Clem. And I think a hint from your email that you just shared is we're excited to finally roll out some of the updates following our rebrand. So we have moved to safe.global. You can now find our app at app.safe.global, and you might see some fun new things on both the mobile and web app side, including finally, once again, NFT collectible support on the mobile app. We're really excited to have some of these new changes out. So refresh your apps, check out the new experience. And as always, let us know if you have any questions or concerns or comments. So yeah, rebrand is out. I think you might have seen it on Twitter, right, as the call was starting. So yeah, thanks for that, Clem. And last but not least, as I mentioned, we are super excited to have Jonah from Den. So Jonah, if you can introduce yourself and give us a little update about what you all have been up to at Den. I think we'd all love to hear it. So take it away.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for Jorge and the SAFE team for having us today. Really excited to share with everyone what we've been working on at Den. For context, Den is an interface built on top of SAFE. And our whole thing with Den is we help teams move fast without compromising security. So as you can see, that's a bit of our tagline. And you might be wondering, where did we come from with Den? My co-founder Itai and I, he's the kind of first one in the picture, not the one whose face is cut off, but the one next to him, and myself, who's 2 down. We were on a number of multi-sigs where we felt a series of pain points in our experience using these multi-sigs. A lot of the pain was around, hey, how do we coordinate these signers to execute transactions faster? How do we make it easier to understand what's happening in some more complex transactions? And we kind of ran into this over and over. And really the straw that broke the camel's back for us was Constitution DAO. Itai and I were both on the core team for Constitution DAO, and we had a 9 of 13 SAFE. And to say it was difficult to get 9 people out of 13 to sign those transactions is an understatement. So we took a step back and said, how can we make this experience, this incredible piece of infrastructure with SAFE, really optimized for the use case of on-chain teams? And that's where Den came from. So what does moving fast mean? Because that's a pretty vague definition. We found a lot of different problems when talking to SAFE multi-sig signers. Kind of at a high level, a lot of teams will choose security or speed, and they'll kind of make this trade-off as, hey, we're going to have a high threshold on our multi-sig, but we're barely going to do anything. Or, hey, we're going to have a really low threshold, but that adds a lot of risk. So we really wanted to say, all right, well, how do we enable teams to have both? And I've already highlighted some of the problems that Den is working on. Hard to get enough folks to sign. For complex transactions, it can sometimes be hard to understand what's happening, especially if you have complicated parameters like structs or arrays, or our favorite nested structs of arrays. And there's tons of other really interesting problem areas we're interested in solving. One of kind of the more long-term things that we're thinking about is things around account abstraction with things like the Zodiac modules and other sorts of modules. So let's talk about one of the problems of getting signatures and how we solve that problem, actually getting everyone to sign transactions. This is a screenshot from one of our Den users, Juicebox. For those not familiar, Juicebox is a crowdfunding platform, and Juicebox has been a Den customer for a long time, and they have this really big multi-sig. As you can see under signatures required, they need 9 signatures to execute transactions. So what we did to help with that problem is to meet these folks where they're living. And what we heard from a lot of teams is, hey, we spend a lot of our time in Discord and Telegram. We want to be kept up to date on our SAFE activities there. So we built a bot that goes in your Discord channels, your Telegram group chats, as well as SMS, that will let you know when there's a new transaction to sign, will remind you consistently if a transaction hasn't been executed yet, and you can set that every 4 hours, every 12 hours, if you really don't like your signers, every hour, to let you know, hey, you still need to sign this thing, and we'll notify you when it gets executed. And as you can see, actually with Juicebox, they'll actually tag the individual signers that need to sign, and only the folks that have not yet been signed will be signed in one of these notifications. So that's one of the big initial problems we started with is, hey, how do we make it so everyone's signing these transactions faster? Another thing that's been really popular here is it's really hard to decide, hey, who's a good signer? Who should I keep on our multi-sig? And one thing we decided to do here was create this stats command. What the stats command allows you to do is see how frequently folks are signing. So you can see in this example here for this multi-sig, for the last 10 transactions, me and my co-founder Itai, we're signing a ton. But Satoshi, he's been nowhere to be found. Not that this is something we've been unaware of. Satoshi's been gone for the better part of a decade, but it's good to know, all right, time to replace Satoshi on this multi-sig. Now we know how active he is as a signer. Cool. So understanding transactions was another really big challenge that a lot of folks had. And these are some of the questions they would ask when trying to understand what's happening in a transaction. One of it is, why are we doing this? There's not an easy way to communicate, hey, this is the reason behind why we are creating this payment stream, why we're doing this swap, why we're buying this NFT. Another big problem that a lot of folks dealt with is, what address is this? I can see maybe the ENS if it exists, but sometimes there isn't an ENS. Is this an EOA? Is this a contract? If it is a contract, what type of contract it is? And finally, does this actually do what I expect it does, right? This token is labeled USDC, but is it actually the USDC contract? What happens when I execute this transaction? These and a bunch of other problems around understanding transactions were things that we heard from a lot of different users. And I'm actually going to show you what we built to solve this. So I'm going to take over the screen share real quick. And so what you saw in that notification, there is a link in there, and that takes you to this. This is the DEN transaction signing page. And you can see a few different things going on here. One, we can see this is transaction with the nonce 15, and you can see a bunch of information on what's happening in this transaction. One of the big problems we discussed was, hey, why are we doing this transaction? What DEN lets you do is add a context message explaining, hey, we're buying a little noun from OpenSea per this governance proposal, and you can modify this for whatever you want it to say. If you do edit this transaction context, then the context will actually show in the notifications that go to your team. So you don't have to leave Discord or Telegram to understand why a transaction is being created. One of the other things we discussed was, hey, sometimes it can be tough to know what's actually happening in a transaction. In this example, we chose the OpenSea Seaport contract, and the Seaport contract is a little messy, to say the least. So the input for it is a struct, and the struct actually includes an array of structs. So there's a few things that you can see here. One is, hey, we have this contract for the nouns token, where it's a little easier to see, all right, what are we actually interacting with? You can see the user that is offering this is an EOA address. So you know that it's not a contract that's giving the offer. You can see the token being used for the offer is WETH. And you can see some other things of what's going on in the input. Now, you may be wondering, hey, I don't understand, what are these parameters, right? What is a zone? What is an offer identifier? Well, if you're not sure what a zone is, you can actually just click zone, and we'll pull up where the word zone is used in the contract. You can actually dig in and understand, hey, all right, now I actually understand what the zone field is for. One other pain that we've seen a lot of folks deal with is parsing, especially in some of these more complicated transactions. Hey, what are the decimals for a number I'm dealing with, right? This offer amount of, I'm not even going to guess how to say this out loud, is pretty much unreadable. But I know that for this offer amount, it's for WETH, which is 18 decimals. So if I just click 18 decimals here, I can see, all right, this is 0.3 WETH. It's pretty clear what I need to do. And finally, one of the last big problems we solved here was, hey, how do I know this transaction actually does what I want it to do? So we added native simulation. The simulation is powered by Tenderly, and you can see both state changes, so how the blockchain changes after executing, as well as event logs, what events were put out by these contracts. So we can see really clearly, hey, this EOA that is selling this nouns token, it's going from 1 noun to 0 nouns. This EOA that's buying the nouns token is going from 7 nouns to 8 nouns. So that's kind of super high level what we've been doing for helping both folks to understand some of these more complicated transactions with some of these more nuanced inputs. Tori, did you mind bringing up the slides again? Thank you. So that's understanding transactions. We've also heard from a lot of folks for creating some of these complicated transactions, especially manually. There's a lot of interesting things that they're dealing with. And the only thing I can say is this is coming soon. So just to wrap up, we are currently a closed beta project. So if you're interested in the private beta, please reach out to myself, my co-founder Itai. And if you want to follow along with what we're working on, we are Onchain Den on Twitter. So thank you so much, everyone, for having us today. Happy to answer any questions if folks have them. Feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Jonah. Yeah, if anybody has questions, feel free to add them to the Q&A panel at the bottom of the call. I guess maybe if we give people a couple minutes, Jonah, I think you've been really active as a Safe Guardian. I'm curious what you and Den are most excited about to see in kind of these initial stages of the Safe DAO forming and some of the conversations that we're already seeing form, like what you're keeping an eye on, what you're hoping to see, and how you're actively participating in the governance of Safe.
Totally. Great question. Yeah, we've been super excited to be actively involved in the governance of Safe. Actually, if you check our Twitter, you can see for every SCP how we're voting and why we're voting on each of those SCPs. What I'm personally really excited about is laying, sorry, my AirPod fell out, laying the foundations of Safe DAO governance from an operational perspective as well as a financial perspective. So one of the big open questions right now is, hey, what are the inflows going to look like for the Safe DAO? And I think that's a really interesting question because there's so many options that we can explore, and it's really greenfield. For example, there could be explorations around protocol fees, there could be explorations around public goods funding, and a whole other plethora of options. So those are some of the questions we're really excited to dive into and see what's going on and where we can go.
Cool. Yeah, and as you mentioned, I think the conversation is already super active. So if you go to forum.safe.global, you'll be able to see kind of all of the updates and get a sense for how the community is feeling and where sentiment is forming. So it's been exciting. Cool. Jonah, if you have anything else, I think we didn't have any questions come in. So Theo, Clem, unless you had anything to cover, actually, just as I say that, a question did come in, so I'll ask this of you, Jonah. So Den is an example of an application that is very appropriate for the Safe community and relates to a use case that exists and is broadly applicable in and across the Safe community. I guess it's not a question, just as the presentation was well done, the right length. I agree. Nailed it, Jonah. Thanks for all of that insight. I was waiting for the question at the end, and then it was just a compliment, so we'll take it.
Well, appreciate, I think it's Cantillon, so appreciate the compliment. Glad you enjoyed the presentation.
Cool. Yeah, so I think that covers it for Safe Community Call number 2. Thank you to everybody for taking time out of your day to join us. Jonah, again, thanks for being the special guest here. Big fans of Den, and we're excited to see you continue building and actively participating in Safe DAO governance. So thanks to everybody for joining. We'll share the recording of this along with some notes in the next couple of days. And go ahead, Jonah.
Sorry, there's one thing I totally forgot to do, and my co-founder is going to kill me if I forget to mention it. We are hiring engineers. So if you are looking to work in the Safe ecosystem on account abstraction, please reach out to us. Really exciting opportunity, super small team, and taking on really, really big projects. Awesome. Yeah, hiring plug. Good call. We'll remind people to do those going forward. I think that's a great shout. Cool. Thanks again, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your day and see you soon.